imagine waking up tomorrow, right? And just realizing that your boss, your spouse, maybe even like the person who cuts your hair, they're all actors in this really complex play.
Right. A play you definitely never auditioned for.
Exactly. You never consciously auditioned for it, but worse, they actually wrote the script that you were reciting right now.
Yeah, that's a terrifying thought, honestly.
It really is. And, most of us have those days where we feel the weight of those invisible expectations. But today, we are opening a text that argues this feeling isn't just like a metaphor.
Right, it's literal.
Yeah, it's the literal, inescapable architecture of human reality. And navigating that exact idea is our mission for today's deep dive.
It's a profound concept. I mean, we constantly ask ourselves how much of our daily lives actually belongs to our own independent will.
Yeah, versus how much is just us executing some sort of social program.
Exactly. Are we making choices or are we just following the code?
Right, so we are unpacking a really fascinating, highly philosophical text today. It's titled 36 Bagua Arrays, the Array of Ethical Relations. And it's written by Lifechanyuan.
And just to give you some quick context, Bagua refers to the traditional Taoist 8 symbols.
Right, the symbols that represent the fundamental principles of reality. Things like earth, wind, fire, water, all of that.
Yeah, but in this text, Xuefeng applies that ancient concept to map out the fundamental principles of human relationships.
Which is such a cool framing. The text basically argues that society is governed by this invisible matrix, and it offers a radical and, sometimes completely paradoxical manual for achieving true personal freedom while still living inside it.
We really need to approach this framework by first looking at its utility. The text synthesizes a very complex understanding of why this matrix, what it calls the ethical array, is mechanically necessary.
Right, to keep society from just, tearing itself apart.
Exactly. But it simultaneously functions as a huge psychological trap for the individual.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's look at the actual architecture of this array. So the text defines ethical relations as the network of connections we form based on, well, things like generation, status, seniority, gender, kinship.
All these demographic markers.
Yeah. And it's easy to think of this like a massive corporate organizational chart. But I actually think a better analogy is to imagine an invisible physics engine that governs society.
Oh, I like that. A physics engine.
Right. Like every time you interact with someone, this engine instantly calculates your relative mass based on your title or your age, and it just, boom, dictates the gravitational pull between you.
What's fascinating here is how universal that physics engine actually is. It's not just limited to, like, a workplace hierarchy.
Right. Everywhere.
Yeah, the text meticulously scales this concept from the absolute macro level all the way down to the micro. It applies to government structures, calculating the deference owed from an ordinary citizen up through mayors, ministers, presidents.
Oh, wow. And religious institutions too, right?
Yep, from everyday believer all the way up to the Pope.
And it drills all the way down into the family structure. Like grandparents, parents, children, spouses, in-laws. Every single one of those connections creates a specific node.
A specific node.
A specific gravitational pull in the array.
Precisely. And the underlying utility of this immense calculating structure is the preservation of order. I mean, without it, human interaction would just be marked by constant, unpredictable collisions.
Just total chaos.
Right. This system of ethical relations establishes a clear protocol of mutual respect and deference. By binding individuals within these predictable orbits, millions of people are provided with clear guidelines on how to behave.
So you don't have to negotiate your status every single time you walk into a room.
Exactly. You don't walk in and wonder how to act around a judge or, your grandmother. The hierarchy acts as a structural integrity mechanism. It prevents absolute societal collapse.
Okay, so this physics engine keeps society from devolving into a chaotic state of nature. But a mechanism designed to hold everything perfectly in place is fundamentally a trap.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, the gravity that keeps you grounded also prevents you from flying. And the text does not shy away from the punitive consequences of trying to escape that gravity.
No, it doesn't. The array aggressively protects its own structural integrity. If you're inside it, you are expected to play your assigned role flawlessly.
Right. The text explicitly states that breaching these ethical relations results in severe backlash. It uses incredibly intense language for that backlash, too.
It really does.
It says those who violate these norms are accused of, quote, disrupting societal relations, and can even be branded as behaving worse than beasts.
Wow. which triggers immediate moral torment and societal condemnation. I mean, the mechanism the array uses to enforce compliance is basically psychological and social exile.
Like it's pushing you out.
Yeah, it treats the nonconformists like a virus, isolating them to protect the health of the broader network.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. I have to challenge the text's deeply cynical view of intimate relationships here.
Oh yeah, the family stuff.
Yeah. Usually when we talk about family or marriage, we view those bonds as our safe havens. They're supposed to be the refuge from the harshness of the outside world.
Sure, that's the ideal.
But the text claims that marital relations dictate a full half of a person's happiness or misery, and that parental influence is so profound it's almost impossible to escape. Why does it view our most loving relationships as the tightest, most restrictive parts of the web?
Well, it's because the text strips away the romanticized lens, right? It
All right.
examines the raw mechanics of the self. To coexist intimately with another human being, you have to constantly negotiate your reality.
Constant compromises.
Exactly. Once you're embedded in this interpersonal matrix, your independent trajectory is totally compromised. The text notes that your consciousness, your emotions, your daily routine,
Even your diet, I think it said.
yes, even your ideology and your diet are shaped by the nodes closest to you.
So it's not just about compromising on, like, what movie to watch on Netflix or what to eat for dinner. It's a constant micro-negotiation of your internal monologue.
Exactly. Over years of these micro-negotiations, the individual self is gradually sanded down to fit seamlessly against the other person.
Sanded down. That is a brutal image.
It is. The text argues that because of this required harmonization, an individual becomes fundamentally unable to form an independent and complete personality. Your self-system is continuously pulled and stretched by the demands of the array.
Which leaves us trapped.
Right. Stuck in what the text terms the realm of necessity.
The realm of necessity.
Yeah.
Meaning you are no longer making choices based on pure independent freedom. You're just doing what is mathematically necessary to maintain the stability of the web around you.
Yeah, it's the ultimate compromise of personal autonomy, all for the sake of communal harmony.
Man. And the localized gravity of a single lifetime sounds heavy enough to navigate, but the framework doesn't stop at death.
Oh no, not at all.
When Feng introduces the metaphysical concept of reincarnation, the entire mechanical logic of this array just begins to fracture.
Yes, the introduction of reincarnation shifts this from like a sociological observation to a profound philosophical paradox.
The text outlines how the cycle of reincarnation completely shuffles the ethical array, and the examples it gives are incredibly vivid.
Oh, they're wild.
Yeah. It suggests that your grandmother from a past life might be your daughter today.
So the generational hierarchy is totally inverted.
Completely. The roles we assume are so permanent are revealed to be entirely transient, and it goes even further. Your current wife might become your mother in the next life.
Right.
The kids you're raising and sacrificing for right now, they could have been your sworn enemies centuries ago.
That's a lot to process.
And someone who acts as your benefactor in this life might have literally been your dog in a past life.
Your dog, yeah.
So what does this all mean? If the array requires absolute static deference to function, how does it survive a universe where the roles are constantly being scrambled?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the inherent contradiction of the human experience. The ethical array relies on permanent categories to maintain order, right?
Right.
But if you expand your timeline across multiple lifetimes, the hierarchy is exposed as a temporary illusion. The universe shuffles these roles, maybe to ensure the soul experiences every possible node.
Oh, like preventing permanent attachment to any single identity.
Exactly.
The text actually brings in Buddhist philosophy here, quoting that all sentient beings are equal.
Right, but it highlights the immediate friction of that truth. Buddha declares all sentient beings equal, yet within the physical mechanics of the ethical array, equality is structurally impossible.
Yeah, a parent and a child are not equals in the eyes of society.
No. An employer and an employee can't operate as equals if a business is going to function.
Right, you can't practically treat a 5-year-old child as an ancient elder, even if spiritually they possess, like, an old soul.
You just can't.
If you try to map the truth of universal equality onto the daily operations of the array, the system just collapses.
It breaks down.
Yeah. The text actually admits that trying to track these shifting roles makes everything confusing, difficult to discern, and literally calls it a headache.
A total headache. It induces massive cognitive dissonance. You're asked to know the spiritual equality of all beings while being forced to act out the unequal hierarchies of the physical world.
It's a trap on top of a trap.
Yeah. The text concludes that managing this across eternity is just impossible, which is why the only logical response is to transcend the specific roles entirely, treating everyone with a baseline of equal love.
Which transitions perfectly to the text's ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
It doesn't just leave us with the headache of cognitive dissonance.
Thankfully.
Right.
Yeah.
It outlines a highly specific protocol for transcendence. It instructs us to escape the realm of necessity we explored earlier and ascend to what it calls the realm of freedom, or a celestial state.
And the mechanics of this escape plan are what make the text so radical.
It instructs the individual to cultivate an independent consciousness by setting incredibly blunt boundaries. Like, it advises us to adopt the mindset. Regardless of who you are, as long as you make me happy, joyful, free, and blessed, I'll play with you. If not, goodbye.
Just goodbye.
Right. But I have to ask, isn't emotionally detaching from people the second they stop serving your joy just like a defense mechanism disguised as enlightenment?
That's a fair pushback.
How does the text differentiate between achieving true spiritual freedom and just being, deeply selfish and emotionally unavailable?
This raises an important question, and the text addresses it by synthesizing the teachings of major spiritual figures. It explicitly points to Christ Jesus, Buddha Shakyamuni, the celestial Laozi, and the will of the greatest creator.
Okay, let's define those last two for a second. In this framework, the celestial Laozi represents the Taoist ideal of ultimate harmony and flowing detachment.
Right.
Well, the greatest creator is viewed as the ultimate source code, right? The highest intelligence of the universe.
Correct. The text is using these figures as archetypes of ultimate detachment and universal alignment.
Okay, so how do they fit into saying goodbye?
Well, Christ offers universal love without attachment to earthly status. Buddha offers the dissolution of the ego. Laozi offers the ability to flow through societal structures without being caught by them.
I see.
So by invoking them, the text clarifies that saying goodbye isn't an act of petty selfishness. It's the necessary protection of the core self from being entirely devoured by the array.
You're aligning with the greatest creator's ultimate design rather than society's temporary org chart.
Exactly.
But, and this is the massive catch-22 that anchors the entire philosophy, you can't simply burn your bridges and retreat to a mountaintop. You can't just yell goodbye to all your obligations.
No, you really can't. The text issues a very firm grounding condition here. To enter the realm of freedom, one must still fulfill their responsibilities, complete their obligations, and repay their earthly debts.
So how do you actually do that? I mean, how do you practically serve an overbearing boss or navigate a difficult family dynamic to repay your societal debt while simultaneously maintaining a boundary that spiritually says goodbye to them?
Right. Think of it like a deep-sea diver.
Okay.
The ethical array is the crushing pressure of the ocean. To survive down there and do the necessary work, to fulfill your obligations, you have to wear a heavy, restrictive pressure suit.
Right. The suit.
That suit is your role. The employee, the parent, the citizen. You move how the suit allows you to move, and you perform the required tasks.
But your consciousness is the diver inside.
Exactly. You never confuse yourself with the suit. When the boss criticizes the employee, they are striking the armor, not the diver.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
True freedom, according to Xuefeng, isn't refusing to wear the suit. That would just result in being crushed by societal exile.
Right, the moral torment we talked about earlier.
Yeah. True freedom is wearing it perfectly, fulfilling every physical and social obligation of this current lifetime, while maintaining an internal consciousness that remains entirely untethered.
You pay the physical toll, but you keep your spiritual capital secure.
You got it.
You act the part perfectly, but you never forget that you are an eternal actor on a temporary stage.
It requires a profound balancing act. Rigorous real-world responsibility coupled with absolute spiritual detachment.
Man, that is an incredibly demanding blueprint for existence,
Hmm.
but it fundamentally alters how you view human interaction. Let's quickly recap the journey we've taken today.
Let's do it.
We began by mapping the ethical array, that invisible, complex physics engine of deference and duty that keeps human society ordered but traps the individual in a realm of necessity.
And then we examined how intimately this array compromises our independent identity, forcing us into constant micro-negotiations that sand down the self to fit the needs of the collective network.
Yeah, that's sanding down. We then introduced the cognitive dissonance of reincarnation, revealing that these rigid, stressful hierarchies are actually temporary illusions.
With roles constantly shuffling across lifetimes.
Right. And finally, we explored the text's paradoxical escape plan, cultivating an impenetrable internal freedom by drawing strict energetic boundaries while diligently honoring and repaying the very real debts we owe to the physical world.
It's a philosophy that challenges us to live fully within the world, without allowing the world to dictate the state of our soul.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on that concept of eternal shifting roles. Think about the stranger who cut you off in traffic today, or, the colleague whose behavior constantly frustrates you.
Right, the current temporary nodes in your array.
Exactly. If this text is accurate and the universe constantly shuffles our connections to ensure spiritual evolution, then that deeply frustrating person might have been your parent who cared for you in a past century.
Or a sworn enemy you're still entangling karma with.
Or even a beloved pet. If you approached your next frustrating interaction with the assumption that there is a hidden eternal connection beneath this one fleeting moment, how would that completely change the mechanics of your reaction?
It's a perspective that instantly diffuses the localized gravity of our daily conflicts.
It really makes you realize that the script we are all reading from is much older and much stranger than we think. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible architecture of our relationships.
It's been a great conversation.
We hope it gave you a new lens to view your world, and we'll catch you on the next one.